All right, so today we're going to jump into some of the big ideas from a really thought-provoking book by Derek Abishua called Worship the Eternal Calling. And it gets right to the heart of a question that, a lot of us, even folks who've been in faith for ages, find kind of tough to pin down.
So right at the start of the book, we meet this guy named Frank. And Frank's story is incredible. He's been going to church faithfully for 72 years. 72 years. But then he says something just so honest. He admits, I'm not sure I could tell you what worship actually is. Wow. Think about that. He knew the routine. He'd sung every song, heard every sermon, but that core idea, the real what and why, it was still a bit foggy for him. And really, Frank's question is the question for all of us here today, right? What does it actually mean to worship? What's at the very heart of it? So let's dive in and see how this book starts to unpack that huge idea. Okay, so first up, what is worship really? The book makes a pretty bold claim right off the bat that maybe we've been thinking about it in a way that's, a little too small. It's actually something much, much bigger. And this is the absolute core idea. Worship isn't just an activity we do on a Sunday morning. It's not about the songs we sing or the rituals we perform. The book says it's the entire orientation of your life. Think of it like a compass. Is the needle of your life consistently pointing toward God? It's that constant, moment-by-moment response of us, the created, back to our Creator. It's woven into, everything. Okay, so if it's this whole life orientation, how do we even begin to cultivate that? Well, the book takes us way back to the absolute bedrock of Judeo-Christian faith, to a foundational prayer called the Shema. So what is the Shema? Well, the word itself just means hear. But in Hebrew, this is a much bigger idea than just sounds entering your ears. To Shema is to listen so intently that it leads to action. It's like listening with your feet. It means the very first act of worship isn't us talking to God, it's about us truly, deeply, and actively listening for God. And what does that deep listening stir up in us? A total, all-encompassing response. The Shema says to love God with everything you've got. All your heart, which is like the command center, your will, your thoughts, your inner world. All your soul, your very essence, your breath, what makes you you. And all your strength. That's everything else. Your energy, your money, your talents, your time. It leaves nothing out. It's a completely all-in kind of love. So this isn't just some abstract theological idea. The book argues this is a real, lived-out thing. And it gives us these incredible portraits of devotion from some of the earliest figures in the Bible. Let's take a look at a few.
Okay, so think about Cain and Abel. This story pops up right at the very beginning. And it's so easy to think it's about, God liking shepherds more than farmers or something. But the book says, no, that's not it at all. It's about the posture of the heart. Abel brings his best, the firstborn, an offering that really cost him something, given in faith. Cain, he just brings some of his stuff. The key takeaway is that God was looking at the heart behind the offering, not just the offering itself.
Then there was this really fascinating character, Enoch. We get almost no details about his life, except for this one powerful line. He walked faithfully with God. And he did this for 300 years. Wow. It's such a perfect picture of worship, being this quiet, consistent, daily thing. It's not always a big public event. Sometimes it's just a lifelong, steady walk with God.
And you can't talk about this without talking about Abraham. His life is basically a map of worship. Everywhere he goes, he builds an altar. It's like he's leaving these spiritual markers all along his journey. Each altar represents a new promise, a new challenge, a new encounter with God, and it drives home the point that worship isn't a destination we arrive at. It's the journey itself, a series of faithful steps.
Okay, but what about the hard times? What does worship look like when everything is going wrong, when you're in pain? This next section, Wrestling and Weeping, dives right into that. And the book's point is powerful. Some of the deepest, most authentic worship actually happens in our moments of suffering.
Look at Jacob. He literally spends a whole night in a physical wrestling match with God. Can you imagine? He's terrified, he's desperate, and he gets injured. He walks away with a limp for the rest of his life. But in that struggle, he just hangs on and says, I will not let you go until you bless me. And that is a form of worship. That raw, desperate clinging to God when you have nothing else left.
And then you have Job. It's almost impossible to comprehend. In a single day, he loses everything. His home, his health, every single one of his kids. And his response is just staggering. He grieves,
He's broken, of course, but then, in the midst of that devastation, he worships. He says those famous words, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." That's worship as a complete, surrendered release, acknowledging God's control even when you can't possibly understand it.
So let's bring all this together in our last section, a life, not a moment. After looking at all these examples, the book basically presents us with two fundamentally different ways to live our lives, a choice we all have to make.
So you've got these two big human projects. On one hand, you have the Tower of Babel. What was their goal? Let's make a name for ourselves. It was all about ego, human achievement, and self-glorification. And what was the result? Confusion, chaos. On the other hand, you have Abraham's altars. What was his goal? Simply to honor God. His motivation wasn't ego. It was faith and surrender. And the result? Blessing and promise. It's a stark contrast.
And that contrast leads us to the final, really powerful question the book leaves us chewing on. It's a question for every single one of us. What are you building with your life? Are you building a tower to your own glory, trying to make a name for yourself? Or are you building altars, moments of surrender, acts of faith, a life oriented toward honoring God? That choice, right there, is what worship is all about.